Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the April 9, 2013 meeting of the Conservation Commission in Abington. Before I begin, this meeting is being videotaped, and do we have anybody recording? I think Ms. Powers and Ms.
I will be recording portions.
Thank you. This should be a quick meeting. Hi, Bill. Mr. Noonan will be here today. He's excused. So we'll move very quickly on. We have two issues. One is a certificate of emergency for 123 Centre Ave, and we have it filed here. And what we need here is and did the emergency certification. The town building inspector called it. So we need to have a motion to do that. I'll just photographs. I took those photographs, but at the back I think are the building inspector.
Have you seen the photographs already?
Yes.
Joe?
Yeah, I saw the ones that were emailed around.
Okay,
Four
good.
of them.
And the building was in poor shape, and the building inspector thinks it should come down. He was worried about asbestos, but while we were there, I ran into the asbestos inspector when I walked around the front. Plus, when there's a gasoline spill, he was doing some sampling for that as well. So I think he took some asbestos samples. I don't know if we've heard back, Nancy, on the asbestos samples, because they were supposed to be back last week.
Is there a firm doing that?
Yeah, he was from, it was Ralph Penny from Penny Engineering.
Okay.
He's a licensed site professional.
Yeah.
So, but he was also an asbestos sampler inspector. The guy, yes, from what he told me.
Yep.
But the building was in pretty poor shape. The comment I would make is no one on this board should attempt or go into the building, because I have some anybody going in there. Yeah. So, I would actually, if anybody sees this on TV, please do not try to enter the building. That would be my comment, because I think it's a safety hazard, and it needs to come down.
There's actually a big sign from the fire department.
Yeah,
big red X.
big red X too.
Nobody can go into the building.
Right, no one should go in. So the Spencer's part is fine. It's just that piece of the building needs to come down, the wood structure.
Now they were taking, because of two issues, they are not doing immediate demolition. Our emergency order goes until the end of April, so we'll have to watch this.
And I think if there is asbestos, they have much longer to go do it.
Yep.
So hopefully that work will happen quickly. And I think the conditions we added were hay bales. What else did we put on there?
Double hay
bales. What? Yeah, double hay bale, silt screen. Here we go.
The conditions are on the next
You
page.
can use those are our signatures. I was going to go. That doesn't look right. I'll keep going. They're listed.
Silt fence on double hay bales by resource area. Machinery should avoid resource area and enter by building.
Mm-hmm. There's a paved road in, and the building inspector, get in by the water much. If they can possibly make their roadway entrance by the paved entrance, that makes more sense.
I mean, that building's only a few feet off of the river itself.
Right,
Yeah.
and really, we want to avoid that material going into that. Some of it's not, some of it's on actual, what do you call them, footings?
Footings. One of the things in the past that Eric Anderson brought forth, and not too many people have asked, I know the Commissioner wasn't aware of it at that time, is there is ongoing remediation on the property. There was some oil spills, and it's still ongoing.
Yes.
So I'd be concerned whether or not any of the ongoing remediation that's, I know they have a trough there for water recovery, so you may want to inquire a little bit on within that particular area. You may also want to request a report on that, since it's so close to the water, and at one time I believe it did impact the river itself back in the 90s.
You think that Perry Engineering might be doing that?
They are the assigned licensed site professional there.
and get.
Yeah, you can. You can just
I
go to
mean, You
the,
might want to just, inquire with them, to say, we're here, we are concerned, we're not, forcing you to file a notice of intent or anything like that. That's something that should have been done
Well,
probably in the 90s.
I fully expect that will come.
Mhm.
That you said.
For remediation,
Not for the remediation, but for the
for the
demolition.
demolition.
Yeah. And so that's what we chatted to. Are there any other comments? A motion to ratify our emergency order, certificate, emergency certificate.
Motion to ratify.
Second.
seconded.
Aye.
Aye.
And thank you, Mr. Thomas.
You might want to specify it for demolition.
Well, yes, that's right. It's, certificate of is cease and desist order for 12 Temple Street. And again, this came from a complaint from Mr. Dombrowski, and and there are photographs on file. And what it is Mr. Kiernan and Ms. Murphy were simply, it's a very clean construction, but there was a bridge there. They took it down the bridge and they put a bridge back over, a new bridge over the river. And I wrote up a report on that. And again, this has to end with a motion to ratify my cease and desist order.
Speak on the enforcement order. Jim Dombrowski, 28 Temple Street. This has been
Could I
going-
ask a couple more questions before Jim talks?
Yeah, actually, yeah.
I would like, I think we need to look at the pictures. Just I want to
Yeah.
make sure when you make some comments that I understand them, Jim.
It's more
And
than
actually,
look
it's
at.
not.
No, I think
and you know what,
these are
it's not
good.
It's not a hearing at the moment, Jim, because they are going to come. What I did was, I did a cease and desist order because they had constructed something over the river, even though
I agree.
it was over the river before.
Right.
They,
Well, they shouldn't be doing construction without filing with us.
Yeah.
So, I have is, they're gonna file a notice of intent with us, is what the,
Yeah.
what the enforcement order was?
Yeah, I asked them to do this intent, just laid out for construction. It is construction. I didn't see, people in the photographs, I didn't see any vegetation or anything, down there.
It's, so
But
it's,
that might be because there was construction there before. It's literally
right,
replaced
and there's, on both, looks like it's lawn on both sides, and the rest of it is like open lawn on
Yeah,
both
that's
sides of the
right.
river.
And the property that Mr. Tierney and Ms. Murphy own, actually they own about 20 yards over on the other side of that field. So they're doing the bridge over. And then their neighbour, the next door neighbour on their left, who I also interviewed, actually owns, I think, the rest of it. And he told me that actually it has become a danger that children were using it to get over to Truby's, which is right, literally just around the corner.
Right.
So they would use that as a shortcut.
So this bridge connects two different pieces of property?
Actually, well, no, it connects it's their own property.
Their own
It always
property.
was there,
I see.
bridge, and they just did a new bridge, it seems, at least it's their account. And they own about 20 feet past that bridge, and then the rest of the land there is owned by the next door neighbour. They sold it. Originally, Mr. Kieran's, I think, grandparents owned all that land there. And there's a stream that goes around.
Yeah, and it is definitely on the Shumatusket there, so. Okay.
And I did a little, a site investigation and did type up, all the misspellings, but that was mine.
Hey, that's pretty good. Thank you for doing that, Dennis. That's a lot of work.
So what's before us now, what I'm going to do is I've asked them to come to us, Mr. Dombrowski to come to us, if you wish, on a notice of intent. And they're gathering their papers for that. And they're going to do that, and I gave them 30 days to do it. They actually, when I came, there was no further construction. You can see it looks like it's finished. So tonight, all we need is a motion to ratify the cease and desist order. Is there any more discussion or any questions?
That seems pretty straightforward,
And
does,
I
Dennis?
went out within 24 hours. Actually, the DP also emailed me on this, because they had also received a complaint. So we actually had 24 hours to do it. I went out in 24, much like the emergency, we had 24 hours to do it before DEP could step in. And we did it within the time.
Wow, that's pretty good. We need an agent.
I know. It was actually a very busy 2 weeks, I think, since our last meeting.
Oh,
It doesn't look like it because our meeting is quite short tonight, but actually everybody was out. Is there any other discussion? Can I have a motion? And Mr. Dombrowski, it's not that I'm going to cut this off, it's just that there is going to be a public hearing, and that's when we'll do it, when they do the notice of intent. I think unless you have...
I'd like to know what the enforcement order is, the cease, desist, and remove.
Yes.
is it to remove or is it?
Oh no, sorry, I beg your pardon, it's not to remove, no. Cease
I
and desist.
think it makes some sense to allow them to file a notice of intent before we require them to remove it.
I don't want to, I don't think we want any more building, or
No.
whether it's deconstruction or construction.
Well,
I don't even want them to
hope that you're
deconstruct.
aware that there's a file on this that goes back to 1986.
Well, we'll hear that at the hearing.
Don't
At the
mind
public
hearing
hearing.
that. You need to be aware of that.
Mr.
Because there was a complaint
Dombrowski,
registered then.
Mr. Dombrowski, there will be a public hearing on this, you know that, and I'll make sure that you get adequate time, as much time as you want to actually talk about it. But can I have a motion to ratify the cease and desist order?
Motion to ratify the cease and desist order?
May I have a second?
I'll second it.
All those in favour?
Aye.
Okay. And that is our two issues that we have tonight. Moving very quickly on to old business. So, how can I do this as delicately as possible? We got a response from the Department of Transportation, but it was actually from the DEP. You can see the letterhead is from DEP, and it says that really what their work was doing, the DEP has already decided it was a minor work. And if you remember, they were doing testing wells here, and it is true that there is an exception for it. And Mr. Noonan did mention to me afterwards that when he looked at it, he thought it did come under the...
We're going to do it anyways.
But we do have an email from Christine Odiega that
Oh, yeah.
conflicts with that from DEP as well. And I don't know what facts these guys got, because we didn't get a chance to participate in the discussion.
And actually, if you look at these two gentlemen, at the thing under their name, it seems that they are actually connected to the DOT project from DEP.
I
So it
don't-
is DEP letter.
It is DEP letterhead, but they're both DOT, so I don't, they're
Well, they're
are they
out-
they're assigned to DOT?
That must be it. They're out
So-
of the Lakeville office. They are the DEP.
So these guys are out of Lakeville, so these are the guys that we have to talk to if, okay.
And so what we did was, when I got that letter, Nancy and I immediately arranged for a copy of the videotape of that meeting.
Mm-hmm,
We sent it all to these people to
Mhm.
explain that some of the questions you asked actually weren't answered because the person who was making the presentation was unable to answer them. And that's why we suggested for the information for us would be easier on request if they put in a request. They did come back and say that we can go out at any time, we just have to contact them to see it. It's very possible that it has been done since our last meeting. I don't know that, but it's very possible.
That they've done
The testing,
because I was out there this afternoon,
yeah.
and I saw the stakes with the orange markers still in place. I found 2 of the 3.
And the,
I didn't see any indication that anything was done or dug.
You'd know it'd be fresh turned over ground, so.
Right.
yeah, you'd know.
No, so
You'd
it doesn't
know.
look like they've done.
And they are going into people's backyards too, so
Yeah.
you know.
that's interesting.
So, I don't know. There are a few options that the Commission has. One is, and it's the option that I like to work with best, which is simply to take them up on their offer and arrange to go and make a site visit out and have a look at it. Because although we have a lot of tools, just as we had cease and desist order, we have a lot of tools here. Sometimes the best tool is simply to talk with people, see if there is going to be an issue, if there's an easier way of doing it, Be less of a problem with resource
Well, I
area.
don't particularly care for enforcement orders. I think just the two cases we had before us were both necessary,
Right.
but I don't particularly care for them at
Yes.
all.
And, you know, and it often chills the conversation. And in this case, I mean, it may well be that they don't need to come before us, that they may be under the exception. But the other thing is, I didn't think that you got enough information. That we got enough
I don't,
information
for me,
on-
a 10-foot test pit that's gonna need to be benched to get to it, plus doing perk tests, aren't covered under the exemption because the exemption does not list test pits.
Now, what do you say when they say that it's already been done before over the last few years?
So just because it's been done doesn't mean it's right, sorry. That's what I say to my children.
I agree. I agree too. This is something that will happen, you know, a few times to the commission. The commissions will be told, well, it was done before. And so you have to just, you know, we really have to pick our battles. It's like the
Yeah, no, I understand. The fact that we have a letter from DEP means I can have, I can call them and ask them what they looked at and why. So I might get my personal answer done, and if I get anywhere, I'll let you know.
Well,
But
would you feel comfortable following up on that issue?
I would be delighted to follow up on it, and especially where I have a, Christina Odiega actually gave us very good advice, I think. And for me, I'm a little frustrated.
Yeah.
Because, just because they're with the DOT guys, it doesn't mean they're in the wetlands branch. So it's a little weird.
Would that be the consensus of all of us? That we
Yes.
Yeah, and I would agree that we should take them up on the site visit if any of us can go. It will be during working hours, so it's a problem.
Right.
Did they give us their contact information on what stuff we actually asked for?
No.
No, we got nothing we asked for last time, even a letter.
Well, Mr. Noonan did suggest that it was actually within the information we got beforehand. But,
Okay.
you know, it was very hard to read. I mean, I didn't read it, but of course, I'm just a layperson.
Well,
But certainly, if it was there, they didn't present it to
Well,
us.
they couldn't find it themselves when they were looking at the drawings, so I don't think it was there.
Well, that's because the questions you were asking, they weren't really familiar with. There wasn't their area, yeah. Okay, all right.
But they were looking at the drawings and couldn't find it, so.
Okay, so that seems the best outcome, yeah.
Thank you, Dennis. Sorry, that was a little strange. Thank you. Thank you for doing that,
Yes.
for following through.
I know, we have laid out, and, you know, the fact that Nancy and I did send a videotape of our discussion to DP underlines the belief that I think we should fight every one of our decisions. If there's any problem, we should be right up, standing with the DP explaining. I think that's very, very important. Is there any other old business?
The only thing I had was, Nancy gave us the zoning list last time, and I went by a couple of them. The only one that I think I had was, I thought I had one on Progress Street. With the
92 Progress?
I think so, and the property itself doesn't look like it has any wetlands, but across the street, there's water. If I've got the right property, it's the
Right.
one that burned, that
Yes.
had the fire. And there's water there, and I really think that they should, I think it's a simple request for determination. I'd like to see hay bales at the front of the house and no parking of construction vehicles across the street. But, we haven't heard them, but I think that might be what we really need there. The property itself looked pretty much, it was up gradient. And Nancy had told me that 351 Summer Street was, had come before us already and had a negative determination. I think you said it came twice, Nancy, right? 351 Summer? It's like right near I think it's right near
Senior Center?
Senior Center. Yeah, I was gonna use the wrong term. It looked pretty dry to me too, so I think that one is okay. And then 3338 Brockton Ave definitely looked like the back is probably buffering some wetlands. I think they came before us before. So that one should need a filing as well.
That means, was there a filing on that?
No, this is all the zoning, Nancy,
How does the zoning list?
from last time. So I had 338 Brockton Ave, 351 Summer Street, and Progress Street were the ones that I looked at.
338 Brockton Ave. 351 Summer Street's okay,
Yeah,
and then 92 Progress Street.
yeah. And,
I'm gonna double check 351, because there are wetlands behind it.
that's right, the one I looked at, if I've got the right one, was,
It's right next to the railroad tracks.
it's right next to the railroad
track.
track, yeah, there's right next to the railroad tracks, and it's
building.
buffering up against the apartment complex.
It does,
And there's, it doesn't look like there was much there, and it has two negative determinations on it, I think.
Right.
You can, Nancy can double check, yeah. So to me, that one didn't look like it might,
It's the same thing across the street's not. It's a detention pond for the water runoff from the
Railroad station.
railroad station.
that's correct.
Do we have files on 338 Brockton Ave and 92 Progress Street already?
No, they were just on the zoning list.
Just on the very list.
We just usually give some recommendations on zoning that they might need a filing.
I can get them if you'd like to see them.
Yeah,
From the zoning? Yeah.
I don't even,
You haven't been.
and there was one on Linwood, Nancy, that definitely needed a filing. It had replication on it.
yeah, oh, they're gonna file. They
Yeah.
had sent a letter.
Yeah.
Well, you don't have to get them out, but we can review that maybe before the next meeting. We can send letters, if you think that there's wetlands, we can send letters out.
Oh, well, all she does is she notifies the zoning board, and then I think they tell them.
You want to do that?
Yeah.
Now, I have a question for 92 Progress. If there's a street that cuts between the two of them, it's still within the wetlands.
Still, it looked like it was within
Right,
50
on
feet.
the other side, it definitely, there's a culvert that's right there that collects water.
It's definitely within 50 feet, and my concern is, really what you're worrying about is sediment going across the
Going across
street
the
into
street.
the pond. What I really, you don't, it's all about the water quality and keeping the water good.
Right.
And not having all that junk roll across the street. And
I was so tempted, that's where I live with the apartments, and I was tempted one day to stop and pick everything up.
yeah.
Actually, that's a mess.
Yeah.
It just passed. I saw it back in Tradesman a while back, just passed, somebody Abington Investments owns it.
Oh, okay.
It
So-
was in back in Tradesman.
Ah, okay.
Is there any other full business? Moving on to new business. I'll just take the building permits first, which was, we went out to 179 Washington Street.
I did that.
Yep,
I checked it and then came back and signed the permit.
yep. 33 Niles Street, was that you too, Jerry?
No, I went
That was
there.
you, Bill.
Yep, check that, okay.
7 Kathleen Drive,
I did that.
63 Rice Street.
I did that.
Oh, do Jerry, right?
I came back and signed both permits with Nancy.
And all those things are done within 24 or 48 hours, so we moved very quickly on this. That's good. Let's move on to correspondence. And I'll pass this down to you. There's just a note, on April 23rd, we're going to have Alexander tracking us, and that's on Adams Street, the Adams Street project.
Okay.
Okay.
Who's Alexander? Is he with,
Algebra and Sci-Tech.
He's the
SciTech?
engineer. Yeah,
Okay.
he's the engineer in charge of it. There's a letter from Tech Associates for Massachusetts Bay Computer Railroad on the 2013 Vegetation Control Program. Actually, Hal was just challenged me something about this. Enclosed is Massachusetts Bay Computer Railroad 2013 Yearly Operation Plan in preparation for the Massachusetts Rights-of-Way regulations. The maps provided on this plan reflect those recently approved or currently under review. The identification on the maps of private drinking water supply wells remains an ongoing process. Please notify them if there's any omissions. A herbicide application is proposed in the yearly plan schedule as follows. No application will take place, however, until the Commission has approved the request for determination. The request for determination was filed in March. We made it March 2011. Oh, right, the previous one. They're going to do the rights of way from June to July 2013. A touch-up application is scheduled for August 2013, and a brush application is scheduled for August 13. This is where they were going to do a spray. This came before us a few weeks ago, and I asked for more information about this. This is the notice that they gave.
Did they give you a map that goes with it where they're gonna spray? Because one of the places, looking for the schools, because my recollection was St. Bridget's was one that always made me crazy because it's right next to the railroad, and I think we asked years ago for them not to spray there, but whether that continues, but thinking about the population along the way.
So this is the map that they gave.
Years ago on the MB280, they used to supply you with a spray, no spray zone. They'd mark it out, they'd actually put markers out on the tracks, different colors of areas that would spray and not.
And not spray.
Even before you get to St. Bridget's, is an area, a vernal pool, used to be Provost's old property.
Well, then I was spent because I thought that this was a project that was going through Ames Mill, actually. So this is not, this is the railway.
Oh, this is a different road.
This is the railway one.
Oh,
Because I thought it was.
there's a railroad track that goes through Ames, no?
Both.
Yeah, the other one with an Addison.
Now, again, this would come under that exemption that we talked about, where people are maintaining their land. Here, they're maintaining a right of way.
But they filed a notice of intent that is still active right now?
I don't know, I just, Nancy noted that a request for termination was filed in March 2011, probably on the same issue. And at that time, there was a negative determination of that. Maybe we have to look at that. Because sometimes the negative determinations do, you still say, oh, we're doing a negative determination.
But there's
this is what we'd like
conditions.
to do.
Yeah, sometimes there's some conditions or requests.
So Nancy and I will pull that for you for next time.
Okay.
So they've got it all marked out, along with the areas that they're gonna.
Oh, they have the spray and the
And no
spray.
spray.
Okay.
This is up on the Weymouth line.
Because that's not too far from Great Pond there.
This would be probably right along where Cyril Adams is,
Mm-hmm.
on the Weymouth line now.
Oh, because that's the aquifer that they're going to use for the
Correct.
base.
Yep.
So they must have requested that. And then this is...
Limited. They'll spray that whole thing. Limited.
Where is this? This is...
This would be right on Bellows Circle, so that's right, the
Right.
cemetery is right here.
Okay.
The pond that's back there.
Let's see, there's a break here.
They show
See
the
here,
area
Central
south of
Street?
Summer Street.
They do, and it's all limited.
Because that's an area of endangered species, special concern.
Right, that's zone A.
It's also in the...
They have some no spray zone on the on the Whitman line,
and here.
and there between that.
But this is where the watershed is. You know, like for
Yep.
the, this is the zone A for the water. So this is Weymouth and that's Whitman. So there's a no spray here. That's probably to do with the aquifer at the base, is my guess. But down here, they have a limited, there's a code here. It's pretty nice. And they actually have highlighted the priority habitats. That's like right here. See that pink down there? And over here, I don't know what that pink is. Maybe that's the habitat too, and there's nothing else on top of it. It's probably like this. Oh.
So what I didn't see was what herbicides they're using, what they're spraying. I didn't see that, but it probably most likely is in look for when we're preparing for the next meeting.
Okay.
So moving on, we got a letter from Copeland and Page, and it's just a copy of a letter they sent to the Plymouth Superior Court, just filing an appearance in the Action Powers versus Park and Abington Conservation Commission. And so they're just telling the court that they're representing the Abington Conservation Commission. We got a letter dated April 8th, received on the 9th, from Stephen J. Nicoletta, stating that they are we hereby notify the Conservation Committee that we are commencing work at the site located at 81 Vernon Street, Abington. Did that come before us? It did. We will be demolishing the current structure within 48 hours. I was here. You weren't here when this came before us, but they are demolishing an older building, building a building just behind it on Vernon Street. There is an actual river that goes right down on the right. Is that right? Is that the right side? And we did do an order, I believe an order, so they were following up on that.
So I think the way the orders of conditions work, they have 48 hours to notify us about placement of hay bales, don't they? Is that, did you put that in that one?
I'm sure that was actually.
Don't we have to give approval before they start, or how does that worded in? They just let us know. So did they say that they put in that, they said they started, but is that to tell us that the hay bales are in?
Presumably, I mean, they
Presumably.
actually did a map. Yes, they did a map beforehand showing us where the hay bales were. And actually, the commissioners who were there actually suggested other places that, as far as I remember, the hay bales should be.
So it might be worth if you
Visit.
visit it during the next 2 weeks to see if,
Yeah.
make sure everybody's happy.
Is anybody available to have a look at 81 Vernon to quickly check the file and then go out and just have a look?
Want to take a ride down?
Do you want? Yeah. Would you?
Well,
Nancy would have the file for you.
all right, I'll take a look at it.
80 Vernon, and it really is just, there is an actual river there. That, I do remember, the reason I remember this is because they had a stream or something, or a I can't remember what the title was. But anyway, an intermittent stream. You gotta love the intermittent
Where's Vernon,
streams.
guys?
And
Where's Vernon?
it's, I went to it, it's
Carl Galby was the engineer.
behind Brockton. Is it behind Brockton now?
Down off of, I'm thinking down the street by the Mexican restaurant. But it's not, it's
I
up.
don't think so.
Vernon Street?
Vernon's the next, up,
Right next with the corner with the Cosmo Dunkin' Donuts.
yeah,
Yeah,
down the street.
it's,
Which building are they taking down? Where
they're taking the
where
old,
was that,
They're
Jimmy?
taking the old house down and rebuilding basically on the same footprint.
Compared to Joe's house, where was that? Towards the old D'Amato's, that way?
Yeah,
Oh,
I'm not sure, I remember there was, I had a question about that. I think they're not actually building on the footprint, I think they're moving it back.
They're moving it, yeah.
Aren't they? Because that's what my question was.
I think
why-
the driveway was a concern.
Yeah, and there was an issue with the intermittent stream, and I think it was Hal pointed out that it's actually a river down to the right there. So that was the only issue with the
Someplace in
bales.
here.
The other thing, I mean, the
That would
engineer
be the-
thing though, it was a perennial stream, but
River and
have
stream.
the orders of
Mhm.
conditions been recorded?
I don't know if that was required actually. I don't think that was required.
Well, if you issued a notice of intent, then the notice of intent. I mean, if you issued an order of conditions for it, the order of conditions had to have been recorded.
No, I don't think it was required.
So it's got a noise on it.
Yeah, I don't think, because I noticed that the old commission didn't do that. They didn't tick off that one, where they asked for notice of condition in doing orders to be recorded. So I'm not too sure if that's so.
That was required. I don't know if you
Okay,
changed it.
so, actually, this is a letter to Kathy Crichton, Vice Chair, Abington Conservation Commission.
Well, I didn't get it.
You didn't get it. Well, you know.
You're getting it now.
You get the joy of looking at this instead of Dennis stumbling and trying to work out what it's about.
Did I win anything? Oh, it's just from one of the vendors that were there. They sent me a brochure, LEC. I was asking about what their services were. I talked to all the vendors at the MACC conference. And you guys are welcome to look at their flyer.
What do they do?
Wetland delineation, they often work for conservation commissions so that they sometimes work as agent for commissions like us. And they can do peer review, but they do a range of wetland services, so.
You know, I don't want to add any work for Nancy does ever. I think it's really just chosen work. But I was thinking, an ordinary homeowner or a contractor, how do they know? A contractor would know who to use, but how would an ordinary homeowner know how to use? And I was wondering, should we have a list of various experts But
We-
the only problem with it is you don't want to endorse anyone.
We can't endorse anyone, but we could probably
Provide a list.
provide a list, but, you know, put a note on it that this does
None
not,
of
re-
these people.
do- and if anybody wants to be added to the list, they'd be welcome to.
There used to be a booklet that MACC used to put out called the Environmental Green Pages. They used to list everyone
They
of that
don't.
nature, all the various engineering companies and things of this nature and the services
Here's
they
the
provided.
letter. It's just
That would be good.
marketing material.
I don't know if I have an old one
It was like, what?
that I'd gladly donate to you.
Depends on what page
I don't think it's listed on MACC's
It's not.
webpage.
But, you know, it might be not a bad thing that we just keep a running list as we go forward, but I don't know how to quite do that. Maybe we just take brochures like this and throw them in the file. And say, you know, we don't recommend anybody, but here's some brochures you can look through.
Does planning do any of that?
Pardon?
Does planning do any of that?
Not for,
No.
no. Sometimes in other towns I've found that they sometimes do have not recommended lists, you know, just this.
It's good when you have specific issues to go hunting after a certain engineering firm. Lycott Engineering has a very strong background with a variety of services they provide.
The next correspondence is from, are we all set on that?
Mhm.
Yeah. Next correspondence is from the National Grid, and it's supplementing a notice of intent that it gave. And in its letter, it talks about a notice of intent that was given back in April 2012. And in its work, the National Grid, or the Massachusetts Electric Company, MEC, DBA, National Grid, has determined that that they have to install an air gap to isolate the S9 circuit during project activities, and it's required on the west of Plymouth Street.
What are
I'm
they
not sure
talking
what
about?
that is. I'm looking down at Jerry, but anyway, what they're doing is supplementing. This is a notice to say that they're supplementing their notice, their notice of intent.
They never did file a notice of intent. This is where they put the crossing from Bellows Circle, Bellows Circle, out towards the power lines across Griffin's Dairy.
Do they have do they reference which
did.
file? What number is it? Do you know, can you tell us?
Actually, they don't reference the file number. They don't reference the file number, so I think we'll have to, Nancy and I have to research this for you.
I think you'll find there's more of a complaint and an issue where they were supposed to have filed a notice of intent, but they never did.
Oh, I see. Okay, so we'll research that for you for the next time. I'll pass this, they actually do have a map here. So you see what they're doing. So next page, we'll move this up.
Nancy, can you send this list to us by email too? Or can you send this list to us by email too?
I think
Oh, you did? Oh,
yeah.
great.
think
Because
you did.
then you can do a search easy enough on it.
Is this the, I have that.
There it is. There's a National Grid filing on April 12th of 2012. It is, it's an administrative consent order, it looks. It says ACC number 5. That's an Abington Conservation Commission filing. And that was on April 12th of last year.
That's it, ACC number 5.
Mm-hmm. So we do have a filing for it of some kind that we can look at to see what they're supplementing.
So we'll have the file for you for the commissioners at the next meeting. But actually, you can see on the map.
This is off of Jean Carroll,
Oh.
Peregrine
Yeah,
Road.
that's down
Yeah.
close to Whitman, on 58,
Mm-hmm.
new development.
Yeah, because the one they did on Griffin's Dairy, they just flew across. It was about the same time.
And it looks like they put some stuff down so they can get across with their trucks.
Yeah, they probably usually put down like some mats and stuff so
Mhm.
that disintegrate after they're done. I don't know if that's what they did on this one or not. It's cool.
Okay. And the only other thing on correspondence is I got an email. I'm going to a class on April 27th on Saturday. And it's, I think you went to it already, Joe. It's Unit 1, Overview of Conservation Commission's Relationships, Responsibilities, Funds and Fees.
Yes.
Actually, I got a scholarship to go on it. And I think the first 50 commissioners, I don't think there's 50 commissioners going on it, get a scholarship to go to it. So it's not very hard to get this thing. So I'm definitely going on April 27th. If anybody's interested in going.
You driving home with Howard?
So can
I'm trying to- I have to get at 9 o'clock.
can I ask a
Before you
question?
go.
When Christine was coming, was she gonna give this one?
I don't know if she's going to give that one. Is she going to give that one? She is coming.
Yeah,
She's coming. It's in April. Yeah. It's for-
I thought she was doing,
I'll look up, I mean, I'll look up to see what it is.
yeah, because I thought she was doing, for some reason,
Fundamental.
the fundamentals.
You mean I don't have to go to Harwich at 9 o'clock?
You might be able to come to Abington at night.
Well, I guess I
Sounds
had
even
talked to her
better.
last Monday about getting a training seminar going up in here. Unfortunately, we're in one of those next to the woods. No one wants to drive all the way to Pittsburgh or Amesbury or Howard to go to these programs. And when you're stuck right in the middle, if Abington just so happened to then host,
And actually, just on, thanks, Mr. Trubowski, just on that, Jerry, you went to the thing in Norwell, right?
Yes, I did.
Oh, yeah, how was
You found
that?
it good?
It was good, very good.
And Christine was there, I think.
Pardon?
I've never met Christine Odiaga from.
I just sat in the back, because the first time there, and everybody was experienced, so I was just learning. But when they explain things and stuff like that, we take a trip into the woods. But this next meeting coming up is looking forward to, because all these things are starting to grow. And this is what they want everybody to see now as they're growing and along the stream that's right beside the town of Norwell's town office. It's quite a place, quite a thing for them, so.
You're there.
It's experience. I mean, first time I ever went to something like that, and I met a few people that knew. Like one guy said to me, I was Keller. Oh, your brother Jim? I said, yeah, that's my brother. So that was the only way I started talking with him.
And we have an approval of the minutes. So everybody got minutes of March 26th. Now you've got 2 minutes, but the minutes we're approving, actually, Nancy, we have 2 sets of minutes, and we approve both minutes.
Yes.
So the first minutes are of the open meeting. Is there any changes or anything like that? Do I have a motion? Do you have any comments? And then there's a second minutes, which is the executive. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes of the open meeting?
Motion.
And the second,
Second,
Jerry? All those in favour?
Aye.
And then the second sheet you have is the executive meeting. Remember, this was on the litigation, that's why it's been usually went into executive session. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes of the executive session?
Motion to approve the minutes for the executive session for March 26, 2013.
A second?
second.
Thank you, Bill. All those in favour?
Aye.
those minutes being released to the public.
The executive session isn't for the, ultimately, I think the executive session
You
does.
might want to state that.
The, obviously, the open meeting is. So, any other new business?
pardon me?
Is there any other new business? Anybody?
No, sir, not me.
commissioners? No?
Oh, do we have a date for the training with Christine yet?
April 25th.
April 25th? Okay.
I have to invite the other commissions. Haven't done that yet.
And our meeting's on the 23rd. And right now, the only thing on our meeting next time is 0 Adams Street. Is that correct? Okay.
Actually, there will be one other thing, which will be the actual membership of the commission itself. There may be, you'll be asked to vote on whether there's a vacancy or not, 2 vacancies on the commission. And this stems from your bylaws, which say that if somebody isn't, has missed 3 meetings or half the meetings, then the members can say stating there's a vacancy.
Now, notice has to be given to the 2 members who aren't here, but I'm trying to move towards, by the end of April, we do have to have, a working commission where everybody, you see, this last 2 weeks was a lot of work. It didn't seem like it, but it was a lot of work. Everybody was out in the field. So this is, everybody has to carry the weight, their own weight. And so if the 2 commissioners come back, that would be fine, but if not, we're going to move forward. And if it's your pleasure, we may well decide that those 2 positions are vacant and just pass them along to the selectmen to refill them. And that will be the other issue of the meeting. That's pending notice, due process notice to the commission.
Okay.
Okay, is there any other issues? Do I have a vote to adjourn? Well, I wasn't going to take any open thing, but sure, Mr. Dombrowski.
I had the opportunity to attend DEP's public hearing session on the proposed changes to the Wetlands Protection Act. And one of the things that the commission may want to review is their position pertaining to detention basins. Right now, I believe the town bylaws declare them as wetlands, and they're required to file a notice of intent to maintain them. DEP is requesting or simply doing a look back to 1996 and exempting that factor.
Okay, and
they're trying to promote maintenance of these stormwater facilities. And ones prior to that were, some of them were designed as wetlands and things of this nature. You have to do it, case by case. They may want to look at, whether or not you want to force them into filing a notice of intent if they want to go in and maintain these.
The retention basis. Actually, that does bring up an interesting issue. There is the DP is looking at the various regulations, and there is you'll see the emails going back. They are talking about. But I honestly I work in another area where we deal with changes and regulations and laws all the time. You can be hit by so many of these notices of changes. I actually only pay attention when they've actually changed the law, because you can get actually weighted down. It's interesting though to see why they do things. But other than that, the only issue is the change law. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
I'm going to pass that back down. Oh, did you guys want to see this National Grid thing? You probably want to just take a peek. Sorry about that. I've been holding on to it because I wanted to read that line. I don't know what, still no.